Okay, so in 2012, I released a song that is to date my best song, and then 10 years later, Kanye West released the exact same song and called it his. You think Kanye can't get any more canceled? Well, buckle up, fuckers, because this is clickbait. I'm kind of an award-winning producer and writer and creative, and I've been touted as a generational musical talent for practically my entire life, ever since I was a child. I'm kind of like the Mozart and the Michael Jackson of this generation. Michael Jackson, LOL. Quick tangent, my dad never liked Michael Jackson, so it was on me to discover him in my youth. Which means at some point I had to Google Michael Jackson. And it just sort of dawned on me that from my generation onward, everyone is independently going to have to experience Googling Michael Jackson, and therefore exposing themselves to a profound genre of traumatizing shit. Michael Jackson, canceled. Kanye West, canceled. This video, demonetized. I was 12 years old in 2012 when I published my magnum opus, the song titled I Don't Have a Banana. It goes like this.
I don't have a banana. I don't have a banana. I have half a banana, but I don't have a banana.
The lyrics deal in abstract concepts relating to platonic forms and whatnot. Although my illustrious musical career knows no bounds after this, scholars typically reference this piece when discussing my work to contemporary audiences. Fair. Now fast forward to February 22, 2022. Kanye West is in the midst of his most devastating public meltdown, or so we thought at the time. This is following his divorce with his wife of almost a decade, Kim Kardashian. Kanye took to the internet to complain about how he felt as though Kim was keeping the kids away from him and Kim's family was conspiring to keep the kids away from him. He would also mention that he didn't approve of the way she was raising them. Mind you, I'm saying this nicely. These were all like in all caps, just like monologues on Instagram. And he really did not like her new man, the comedian with his big cock in your coffee, the new spokesman for Taco Bell, apparently, Peter Davidson. In a song called Eazy, Kanye says,
God sent me from that crash just so I could beat Pete Davidson's ass. Who?
Kanye went on to give Pete the infantilizing nickname Skeet. And then Kanye moved into a house right across the street from Kim and her family. Obviously uncomfortable, Kim Kardashian hires more security and sends this text message, to which Kanye responds with one of the greatest songs he has ever made, Security, off of his unfinished, technically released but ultimately scrapped album Donda 2, the sequel to Donda 1. Hold on. What? Kanye? Okay, so I spent like a long time conceptualizing, ideating, writing, producing, mixing, vocalizing this song in GarageBand for iPad, and I just feel like you don't understand like the work that takes, and for some reason it just confuses me that you just, I guess, thought it was okay to just, I don't know, practically walk into my house, assault my family, and then steal my prized work, and then just call it your own? I don't know, I'm just really confused. That's how white people talk. I'm not sure why he came for me. I think it's cool that Kanye could find YouTube beats with 200 views on them and then use them. All I'm saying is because of this episode, I have clout and you don't. You specifically being the two sole comments. At Pacman970 says, this is the worst thing ever. Then at Soup Hurricane says, this is the worst thing ever. I contacted my lawyers. They contacted his. And then, I just figured I should leave Kanye alone for a little bit. Okay, although the songs barely bear, like, a somewhat uncanny resemblance, this part of the video is a joke. Obviously, this is clickbait. I also just found out that Security actually just samples a song off the soundtrack for a movie called Zola, which is directed by the same lady who directed Lemon.
Oh. 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 Oh.
Yup, really, I just wanted to talk about Donda 2, not only because there are rumors circulating that he might be dropping another album soon, and he just dropped a funny-ass song, but also because, I don't know, I kind of connected with this album in, like, an emotional way. It's special to me, and also, I think it's really unique, and I think it went underappreciated. Obviously, it wasn't all that accessible. Earlier I said that one of its songs is one of his best songs, despite the extremely toxic and abusive context from which its subject matter originates. What the fuck is that about, Jawan? Part 1, should I even be talking about this? Part 2, why am I talking about this? I don't know. Nah, okay, listen, okay, fuck. Okay, it doesn't say this anymore, but when all the shit went down, let me just read to you the last sentence of the introduction of Kanye's Wikipedia page. Last 2 sentences, actually. In November 2022, he announced his 2024 presidential campaign, appearing publicly with white supremacist Nick Fuentes. He later publicly praised Adolf Hitler, denied the Holocaust, and identified as a Nazi. I'm not going to deny this, and I'm not going to downplay this. This is bad. This is a little funny seeing it written out just like bluntly like this. No, this is bad. There's no justifying or excusing this. This is all bad. There's one justification, kind of.
I saw one news pundit screaming about Kanye. She said, mental health is no excuse for that type of language. Yes, it is, bitch. You can kill somebody if you're mentally ill.
Look, I say this just because it explains some of it. I am of the opinion that we shan't blame the man for his obviously diminished handling of reality. I don't know if you've ever been manic before or had like a dissociative episode. It's not like kiddie shit. Like, this is fucked up. It changes fundamentally like who you are and how you're operating in the world. This is not shit to take lightly. I see any and all of Kanye's alarming behavior, and I am first and foremost concerned about his health. But that doesn't make the actions any less harmful. I know that. He identified as a Nazi. And as long as it is harmful, there should be condemnation of the behavior and reparations for the victims. And if you want to properly cancel Kanye, you know, there's 2 things that he prospers off of, which are his wealth and his ego. So just don't inflate those things, because if you do, you are supporting his harmful lifestyle. Don't talk about him and praise him publicly, especially during these times of fucking media propaganda frenzies. However, please refer to all of the lyrics of Mortal Man by Kendrick Lamar behind me. There are better people than me out there who are mature, composed, and disciplined enough to deny themselves the pleasures of these things that they really enjoy or that even really matter to them in service of this greater good. I'm not one of these people. My values are out of whack right now. I value the art too much. I value the experience that art gives me, and because of that, I am able to separate the harmful actions of the artist from the art itself. Even when it's Kanye West, the most egotistical and like necessarily infused with the art itself type bullshit person. Like, even just now, in order to explain the premise of a song, I had to dive into like a whole tabloid YouTube drama ass fucking essay. And yet I still find ways to enjoy the art itself as a piece separate from that context. Why do I do this? Because Kanye West makes music that excites me, and he's been doing that practically my whole life, and he hasn't let up for even a second. Even his worst stuff has songs on it that I treasure. Like Donda 1, his most recent official release, a product of his deteriorating mental health and controversial existence, an album that the majority of fans will even acknowledge is bloated, undercooked, and often unappealing, has songs on it that emotionally devastate me and move me to tears in new and exciting ways that other music hasn't before. I'll make a fucking 40-minute long video about Jail. That's my favorite song of all time. That's the best song I've ever heard in my life.
Fuck you, Joe Rogan!
In Life of the Party, Andre says, "Hey, Miss Donda,
If there's a heaven, you would think they let you speak to your son.
fuck, man. I was so happy to hear him bring this energy to his solo album. Kanye to this day makes music that excites me. I like his taste in production. I love his writing style. I love his delivery and his flow. And to say that his longevity has been impressive would be an understatement, man. Only Bob Dylan is spanning decades like this. So I heard Donda 2, and that shit touched me, and no one else gave a shit about it. I've sat with it for a little over a year now, and there's rumors of a new album coming out, and this video has a really easy clickbait title, so fuck it. Donda 2 review. The narrative of this album, regardless of the narrative in real life, what is written, performed, and produced within the confines of this album is an extremely compelling, heartbreaking, thoughtful, introspective, funny, and unique story of a man who has lost everything, is isolated and alone, and who is desperately trying to cope with feelings of abandonment and betrayal. And it's good. It's unfinished, but it's good. Part 4, the album is a scam. The official Donda 2 codices are $20 to a movie theater for a limited release on February 22nd, 2022, and the $200 stem player, both of which grant you access to songs that sound like this. Or you can access various peer-to-peer file sharing services. This video has been demonetized. I'm gonna go into each of these songs in more detail, but generally my opinion is these are really awesome song ideas for the most part. And when there aren't lyrics, there is flow, there is a melody, and there's a beat that I can rock to and that I thoroughly enjoy. And despite having 3 fucking lyrics, those fleeting moments excellently feed into the album's greater narrative.
Do I look happy? Do I look happy to you?
Like, fuck, man. Okay, from the top.
True
No
love.
hard
Feelings, but these feelings hard though.
Fuck.
Daddy's not gone. Shouldn't be this
Tailgate Q. This song is one verse, but it's a punch in the gut, man. Who the fuck is Goku? We open with, first off, the house on fire, sick-ass visual. We open on these soft little piano chords and this brilliantly simple yet devastating hook sung by none other than X. True love shouldn't be this complicated. I thought I'd die in your arms. Everything we need to know in this crunchy little bite. Ooh, there's glass in there. Ooh. Again, regardless of IRL context, what we have here is a tale as old as time, the coldest story ever told, if you will, that of love lost, delivered in this pitch-perfect melody that then turns to This isn't quite the wailing, crying guitar of Jail, but it is haunting melancholy. In the lyrics, Kanye mourns both his wife and his children, though mostly focusing on his children. With the separation, time is slipping away. He knows that his kids are gonna grow up without him, and whatever time he gets with them is unnatural, fleeting, and controlled.
When I pick them up, I feel like they borrow. When I gotta return them, scan them like a barcode.
And sure, some of Kanye's moping is some real Kanye-specific moping. You can roll your eyes all you want at the whole "please let them wear Yeezys" sentiment. But this is a version of the story that only Kanye can tell, and it brings into view what Kanye's values are, which comes up later in the album, surprisingly. And these feelings hard, though. Like, this is emotionally resonant, man. I like particularly, like, the flow of that line.
Wait, why they can't wear Yeezys with the cargos? Y'all know Nike don't like me, y'all take it too far, though. At least have him miss some mics, he played for Chicago.
This is really catchy to me. The themes are really cohesive, and it's real. The end of this verse, leading into the refrain, reflect Kanye's unwavering commitment to raising his kids. And this is not like the Eminem cringe fest of, oh, I'm such a good dad. No, these lines are coded in like paranoia and delusion. And it also reveals the extremely isolated yet horribly egotistically elevated place that Kanye views himself in and the role that he assumes. You know who else keeps their light from the lighthouse on, shining on his disciples? God. He's not only saying that he's the best and only man capable for this job, but he's also comparing himself to God in the process. He's comparing his presence to the immortal spiritual presence of a dead guy, with his shout out to X's son, Gekyum. I know you're all saying this is a reach and I should stop sucking Kanye's cock, but not only are these ideas presented one after another in the song, but I don't think I would put it past Kanye to regularly refer to himself in godly terms. X's fucking beautiful, sad, lo-fi humming takes us through the end, and there we have it. An emotionally devastating Kanye tune setting up the themes for the album we're about to hear. Track 2, Broken Road. Rascal Flatts said, "Life is a highway." Rascal Flatts says, "Yeah, find true love along a broken road." This is just a coincidence. This song is also only one verse. It's not as good. There's just not as much going on in this one. It's just a really stripped down, melancholic form of what I can only describe as the Life of Pablo sound, which I merely use to describe like 808s that sound like this. This one's incomplete, dull, boring, inoffensive, mildly pleasant. I like the line, "That wasn't me, that was Tyler Durden." The idea behind "I'm free like a homeless person" is mildly compelling. It fits with the theme. It's just kind of like a song about heartbreak and finding yourself, whatever. It doesn't matter, because once we finish it, we get led into Get Lost, one of my favorite Kanye songs ever. In the movie, this is actually when he starts walking on water. It's fucking beautiful, man. What can I say about Get Lost? It's like the end of Auto-Tune, man. Like, I don't know what the hell this is. I've never heard a song like this before, and it's so awesome. This whole song is auto-tuned vocals layered on top of each other, and that's it. But it's also a song without lyrics that relies 100% on its vocal performance.
I still get lost sometimes. Memories hard to mind.
I know this has happened in music before, and I know you can just emulate this for yourself by listening to a song in a foreign language. I know the Nusrat, the Kowali, I know that shit. But still, I've never heard this all digitized and newfangled and fancy and Kanye-esque. And I also think this is a pretty bold inclusion, considering just how much a dramatic departure in sound this is from most things we hear in Kanye albums. Like, he's done really spacey, sort of droning deliveries before, but this is sort of like a laser beam demand on the part of the audience's attention. It's really somber. The rhythms are enchanting.
Do I still cross your mind? If not, then never mind.
Whatever I get from the performance here is, of course, lost and isolated. It's reminiscent, hopeless, haunting even. I've said haunting about 4 times, but that's the best word I can use to describe just the vibes of this album, man. He's being haunted by his memories and his demons and his shitty sense of self-reliance. No lyrics, but these feelings hard, though. There's emphatic delivery on lines like,
"But a new sight to see what you were right for me, what look was right for me. I did what's right for me."
a notion which I think gets more depressing the more you think about how absurd it is, but which on its own I think is a natural progression for the wounds that Kanye is suffering from and his desperate attempts to cope with his fate here. The only audible line from a specific section is "soccer without the cleats," which I'm assuming alludes to his sense of feeling as though life has lost its purpose. While that line isn't particularly great, I know that the stuff around it must be eliciting that feeling, bro. This is one of the best interludes. I'm going to call it an interlude. This is one of the best interludes I've ever heard. Random hot take time. The interludes on Mr. Morale are the best songs on that album, and the same goes for To Pimp a Butterfly. We're left then in silence as the vocals echo out. The whole song was punctuated by these dramatic rhythmic pauses that weren't filled with anything, but now we sit alone in the center of the universe, swallowed by our ego and our pride, reflecting on our mistakes. This fucking album sucks. Ooh, it's a new day. Can you tell? Woo! Now we're dancing. We're entering Act 2. I'm giving this fucking incomplete album acts. Kanye's villain arc is a natural and predictable component of Kanye West albums up until this point, but which here is motivated and pointed and folded into the narrative. Too Easy is a song that serves as a bridge between the depression and the reinvigoration into villainy. It's a little lame, but I like it. This definitely feels like the skeleton of a song upon which you can't really do a whole lot. The difference between a song like this and Broken Road is that Broken Road is really short and moves along rather swiftly, whereas here, I feel like I'm being locked into a repetitive structure that doesn't really go anywhere. This happens a couple times throughout this album, which lends it to feeling a little bit undercooked. Although it's repetitive, that doesn't stop the bass from being crazy as fuck, bro. And Kanye's vocal performance is extremely exciting, coming in right out the gate with these yelps of too easy, too breezy. And Kanye remains in this song super high-pitched in this super fast laser beam flow.
Remember, I had to come on for a whole life.
I don't know what he's saying, but all the rhythms and the dynamics here make for a really tasty little jingle, my friends. Interruption, I found a more complete version of this song in a leak, and it's more rad than you could even imagine. Whatever I complained about being repetitive earlier is now far more tolerable and even rewarding, thanks to motivation being given to the vocal performance.
I don't really have to look back in hindsight.
But even so, given the bright excitement that this verse performance brings, I find its landing point a little bit underwhelming. I need you to love me. Both lyrically and melodically, it's a little disappointing. It feels like a flat line. I'll give it credit for Kanye expressing a lot of vulnerability and opening up about a flaw and realizing that there's something deep that he's missing out on now. He's expressing loneliness by begging his family to validate him or even his fans. I still think it's a little lame though. Leak time, he actually changed this refrain in later versions to include lines like, and if nobody loved me, I'm gonna love me, I don't need you to love me. Or even more spiritually, there's different versions of this, I don't know which one was the final intended version, but more spiritually, my father loves me. The delivery on which is super sparkly and empowering.
And nobody love me, 'cause if nobody love me.
And this makes even more sense. It's not as unexpected as I need you to love me. Instead, as we build toward his reinvigorated villainy, this speaks a lot to his egoism, his self-empowerment. And it even works as a continuation of a motif found on Jail, where Kanye seems to be counting on his righteousness and his own relationship with God to guide him and save him through these challenges as the world seems to turn on him. But this doesn't count toward the review. I'm not reviewing this free, accessible, complete version of the album. I'm talking about the $200 incomplete version. I also really like the sprinkly, rainy chimes that come through at the chorus. I think they contrast really well with the bass. There's something spooky and mysterious about this rainy day, sharp shadows-y, dark atmosphere that's being created by this song. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like a car commercial, but so does Black Skinhead, so fuck off. Okay, next song, Flowers. This song is fucking awesome. No, it isn't actually, because the premise of it is actually critiqued upon in the opening scene of The Social Network. I'm going to talk about the fucking Social Network now. This video is brought to you by Sony. In the opening scene of The Social Network, a young Mark Zuckerberg is on a date with Erica Albright, and he's just fucking waxing poetic, talking nonsense faster than he did in the Batman versus the Superman. And what he's revealing here is that he's insanely obsessed with social status and sticking out from the crowd. This is a mindset that's probably been beaten into him by his environment at Harvard, where social status is everything. You're already among the most elite of an elitist crowd, what with the 6% acceptance rate and these rich legacy who all have ambitions to rule the world. But then Harvard also has its own elitist piece of shit social hierarchy system within itself. So there's frats, right? Fraternities and sororities, which at normal schools are meant to represent the top of the social food chain. A food chain defined by frats and sororities, so take that for what you will. But as far as they're concerned, they run the social culture at school. They throw the best parties. They've got the best looking people. But then Harvard has their own made up bullshit thing, one rung above, of the frats called final clubs, which is like the most elitist tippity top. You will only even be considered for this if you've got some clout to you.
You are at one of the oldest, one of the most exclusive clubs, not just at Harvard, but in the world.
And Mark Zuckerberg, obsessed with climbing this ladder, figures he has to do something substantial in order to get the attention of these clubs.
Because they're exclusive and fun, and they lead to a better life.
Erica doesn't give a fuck about any of this. Erica is friends with the door guy at this bar who let them in even though they're under 21. That's all the status she needs. This exact conversation also happens in Whiplash. I'm distracted, sorry. So a deluded Mark decides to start spitting some game. He says, if I get in, I'll be taking you to events and you'll get to meet people that you normally wouldn't have gotten to meet. Or as Kanye sings in the chorus of Flowers off of Donda 2,
your life finna change right now.
What Mark doesn't realize is how condescending this is, and also how little of a shit Erica gives about Mark's perception of status, which is why she then says, you would do that for me? And then dumps his ass, because what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Wait, settle down.
What is it supposed to mean?
So that's a really valid criticism of the core concept of this song. It's a little icky. The basic idea here can be communicated within one of its first lines. I'm a flex. Imagine your ex face when he finds out. It's about Kanye being the greatest thing that's ever happened to a new girl that he's dating. Your life finna change right now. And also another thing, Kanye is allowed to flex, and flexing is cool. And I think it's hard for flexing to come off convincingly unless you're flexing about some particularly cool shit. Kanye's delivery, the catchiness of this hook, and the things that he's choosing to focus on are all convincing flexes that are all done really well, even if they're a little icky. It's
a little dirty sometimes, but it's funny.
Anyway, this song also plays out with some twinkling melodic chimes contrasted with some fucking ripping bass. The Set Me Free sample is also catchy as hell. I don't really care about the build-up with the clapping hi-hats. I think that part is kind of dumb, even if it is coded with these sort of heavenly organs. Set me free. But the lyrics toward the end are really cool. I'm gonna steal Kanye's actual explanation for them, where Kanye takes this hook about, you know, superficial worldly things and turns it into something a lot more spiritual and kind of godly.
And you know, at the end of the day, it's all gospel, right? So we could be inspired by what God made through the female's beauty, but at the end of the day, we got to give it all to God. Lord, take me where you want to take me. Too much drama lately. Your life finna change right now.
He calls upon the Lord. He says, Lord, help me. Too much drama lately. And the Lord seemingly responds, your life finna change right now, as a sort of acknowledgement of his prayer. Once again, feeding into Kanye's sort of God complex, because he earlier is talking to the girl about how he's gonna make her life change, and now he's using the same exact methodology that he gives God. Good shit. This happens in the Steve Jobs movie as well. The most potent line being, he's arguing with his baby mama, and she wants child support money. He's not giving her any. Even though he's one of the most richest men in the world, most richest. She's like, so they're arguing about something else, and he's like, you know, being a dick. So she's getting mad at him because he's sort of arguing with this typical brand of just like, you know, this is my way, and no ideologies, no viewpoints deviating from my own. I have control here. And so in her sort of frustration, she says, Steve, things don't become so because you say so. Allah saying be, and then it was, and Steve Jobs, he's like jacked in this movie. It's crazy. He kind of just turns around at her and he goes, there'll be more money in your account by the end of business, and then fucking walks away. Godlike power in that man's hand, proving to her that truly he is God. Watch Steve Jobs, written by Aaron Sorkin, directed by Danny Boyle, the director of Yesterday. The flexing and the vanity here are really good at building into the villain arc, because Kanye is really smug and confident and is also creating antagonists out of it. Antagonists who are the victim of violent assault, as we are about to find out in one of my favorite Kanye West songs of all time, the one that I wrote, Security.
No, you can't be on my mama album.
Dude, even Kanye knows how fucking crazy this shit. He's on there going,
Yeah.
What can I say about Security? He hasn't done anything remotely like this since Yeezus, except maybe the last part of Chakras off of an unreleased album.
Stab your back, they can't front, nigga. Top aside what we want, nigga.
In terms of just the raw energy and being absolutely unhinged, and just being emotionally unstable in the most militant possible way. There is a violent energy here that is so choppy and edgy. Keeping time is this ominous woodwind, and then balancing things out are these spacey strings that just further add to the discomfort. And right when you think the song is mellowing out, Kanye just fucking comes right back at you with this rumble and this riffing that feels so unsteady. It's like an adrenaline rush right before going out into battle.
I put the security at risk. Y'all gonna need security for this. Yeah.
And then the strings come back, and they are so much fuller and deeper. And on top of them is Kanye just wilding out vocally. He goes, "Butt naked in the kitchen cooking grits." This is a song about Kanye willing to go to war with anyone who stands in the way between him and his kids. And that line right there specifically is a declaration that he is conquering land.
Security gonna need security for this.
And then the song ramps back up with these, I don't even know what these are. I'm just gonna call it the evil riff. Like, I'm like afraid of it, and I don't really know how else to describe it. As Kanye at the top of his lungs starts declaring fucking fatwas.
Don't put the security at risk.
Never take the family picture off the fridge. This shit is so serious. I like the song Jail as an embracement of defeat, a resignation to inevitable fate, and yet a celebration of being a troublemaker, much like this TikTok right here. I like Security as a violent uprising against the police. Cause I ain't getting frisked. Remember Stop and Frisk? It's so simple, and it's so packed. From historical wrongs to Kanye's modern dramatizations. This shit is so dense and perfectly amplified. I have to compare this song to Yeezus because I feel like this does so much of what Yeezus is doing, but doubles down on my favorite parts of Yeezus. Like, this song somehow makes On Sight sound polished, which is crazy. And no, that's not because it's unfinished. I think these are all deliberate production choices. But further, you know, songs on Yeezus are typically about Kanye kind of fucking around arrogantly while he's flexing his superstar status and solidifying it unapologetically and embracing the freedom of his platform, which is great. But what I prefer is here, where I get to see a vulnerable personal narrative constructed as a threatening political declaration. I get to hear elements of this music just cut in and out at their own will, sending me into a whiplash, and also scaring the hell out of me. This song is my alarm. The outro to Too Easy was a little lame. The outro to Security is a necessary breather. We don't get paid enough for this. It's not worth it. Stand down. I'm Kanye fucking West. You cannot cancel me.
Come sue me, me to me.
This song brings us into Act 3 of 5 now, by the way. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I forgot I was keeping track and structuring this. This song right here serves as a culmination, the peak of his villain arc's sort of rising action, and the height of his anger, irrationality, instability, immaturity even, and most importantly, uncontrollability. Alright, we're now entering the second half of this album, which is a little more feature-heavy, but which we know to be one of Kanye's greatest strengths, bringing on different voices and making them sound perfect. We Did It, Kid is a strange little song that I kind of have mixed feelings on. Like, I just generally don't like this triumphant NBA Finals commercial break shit. You know, the horns on this or whatever, the brass instruments remind me immediately of Family Ties, which Baby Keem is also on. I'm gonna bring up Fantano real quick, just because he said something that I just don't agree with at all. I think Baby Keem's verse on Praise God is one of the best verses of the century.
Baby Keem completely derails what would otherwise be a pretty great highlight on the record.
Bada da boo, I bada da boo, I bada ba bing, I need a new girl, my old one was mean, is one of the hardest lines I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, Kendrick keeps talking about how one day he's gonna press the button, and I don't really know what that means, but when I heard Baby Keem on Praise God, I was like, oh, Kendrick just pressed the button.
PG Lang.
So his verse on this song is cool. You know, it's melodic, it's fun, it perfectly captures the tone and the energy that this song is going for. I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. But it doesn't even touch this.
We Did It Kid, the Baby Keem feature on this track, is leagues better than what he did on the original Donda.
The most interesting part of this song, and by far the best, is the Migos verse, though. It's really great. It features lines like,
Deep platinum plaques ain't nothing. I stand over and take a piss. I stand over and take a shit.
as well as the line, helping Ye find Kim, which is such an adorable implication, just given, like, the whimsical and triumphant nature of the song. Like, it's Baby Keem, Migos, and Kanye going on a Lord of the Rings adventure to find a princess. Yeah, sure, maybe Kanye is pro-life or whatever, but I don't know, it's such an arrogant little line, I like it. And the whole section with the rhyme schemes surrounding the line, my mama had to cry for this, thank God I'm alive and rich, is really cool and catchy and inspiring and triumphant, whatever. Everything that the song is trying to accomplish, it gets done in the Migos verse. But beyond the song's generic hype function and being a vehicle for these other rappers, I'm otherwise not that hot on it. Now, Pablo, on the other hand, now this song is some fucking hype, man, mainly to the credit of Travis Scott's vocal performance.
Let's have some fun.
Pull out your tongue. This beat comes with those Life of Pablo 808s, obviously, but this time they're really hopping and skipping around, and it just feels so shaky and intense here. I'd call the structure of this one pretty repetitive and lingering as well, but it comes jam-packed with this menacing melody that not only makes me feel uneasy, but also attacked. These moments of abrupt pauses where the beat just gets to take over, those alone have made me fall in love with this song.
Who they waiting on? That's Pablo.
And when Kanye decides to play into the vocal performance, because often when he's mumbling, it's a little flat, but when he does decide to play into it, his energy is composed and calculated. These perfectly rhythmic ad-libs feel like these precise little snipes. And, you know, I say composed and calculated as a deliberate contrast to what Security was. And with whatever fleeting lyrics we get in Pablo, this is also contrasted there. Satan himself is back in town is such a starkly different message in comparison to I'm here, get the fuck out of the way. But see, that thought rounded out with pick me up before I drown seems to imply Kanye assuming this Pablo alter ego who is fighting against much larger than life existential threats and demons. See, if Security was very real human villainy, then I think Pablo is supposed to represent a sort of ascension, which again is communicated through this melody also being super just like outer spacey and futuristic. One of the mumbles is, no, you can't. This song is awesome. The future verse is okay. One of the lines is 3,000 shots, Andre. I like that one. Have you heard the new Andre 3000 album? Wrap this song up, and here begins the falling action. In Act 1, Kanye was depressed about the immediate consequences of this heartbreak that has plagued him. In Act 4, he's depressed, but way more existentially and thinkingly. When I first heard Louie Bags, I wasn't huge on it. I couldn't relate to its absurd premise, nor do I care much for Jack Harlow as a rapper. But on Listen 36, it's easily one of my favorites on the album. Much like how it's wrong for me to be positively reviewing a Kanye album in the wake of him making unseemly statements, Kanye in this song gives us an example of someone taking on the kind of activism that we are all supposed to when things go sour. No longer supporting Louis Vuitton because he knows that money isn't going to Virgil anymore. so he doesn't want to support this cause. Kind of like how I stopped buying Louie specials after Louie came. He's even protesting, though. See, there's a dichotomy set up earlier in the song True Love where Kanye feels as though his kids wearing Nikes is like a direct attack against him and his affiliation with Adidas. But this theme comes back, and now that it's him doing it instead of him feeling antagonized by other people doing it, at this particular stage in the album when we're far more introspective and goal-oriented in terms of tackling our problems here, this moment, as bizarre as it's written, is an excellent demonstration of character development. Do you know what a character arc is? Here's one. Tom Holland looks so sexy when he's trying to fucking impale the Green Goblin. The themes in this album are not only coherent, but they're also deep and emotional despite being a little bit superficial and vain. And this is a line that Kanye is demonstrably an expert at towing. We're talking about grieving a dead man in terms of designer brands. Boycotting Louis is an emotional response for him. This is a song about Kanye dealing with his emotions and problems, yet it's somehow composed and thoughtful. It also doesn't really have lyrics, which is probably why. In the background here, there's this high-pitched whistle that's crying, while these funky-ass, sweet, low-key drums punch in with this rhythm. Underscoring one of the catchiest and agreeable, thought-provoking, sad, and socially topical choruses that you can sing along to with your friends.
We stopped buying Louie Bags at the Virgil Pass.
Let's talk about the Jack Harlow verse. Shit's a highly personable meditation on fame. The perspective of Jackman's meditation here in this verse are actually coming from small children, his little cousins. So it's not a lot about the torture of touring or fucking on bitches. The innocence of this voice actually works as a good sort of lens through which Jack Harlow can see himself growing up. And it also subtly highlights how he's become estranged from his family. It starts with his cousin's parents talking about how they disapprove of the swearing in the albums, but then moves on to them acknowledging that he doesn't even go to church anymore. But which, again, Harlow is still growing up. He doesn't really have a firm stance on any of these things. In fact, he's sort of scared because he has no fucking idea what's even going on.
Paranoia ticking in my head just like a metronome.
Harlow's unstable grasp on this shit extends into paranoia he's feeling about being a rapper at all. It's a cool verse. There's something about Kanye getting white rappers to just spit fire on his fucking songs. Did you know that this part in Fade? Did you know that's fucking Post Malone? Alright, let's talk about Happy. I don't know what the fuck is going on in this song, but it's hard as shit, man. I have so much trouble describing this instrumental. It sounds like a sinister Imperial March orchestra mixed with alarm bells and this crazy robotic sample. It sounds kind of like the soundtrack to Zwak. I mean... You remember Zwak? Stop sampling the new 3 Stacks and start sampling this shit. It starts off with this really long Future verse, the sound of which works really well in the mix. It's this sort of low-key grumbling auto-tune, all kept really subtle. But this verse doesn't really go anywhere beyond some clever quips and braggadocio. But then Kanye comes in and he's like harmonizing lazily while going on about the most billionaire shit. Hopped out the Uber. Next thing you know, I bought Uber. Ooh, it's so funny. It's so fucking hard. And I think this song is coming from a really uniquely manic perspective. Just real quick, because I didn't know this when I was 16. Bipolar disorder can be defined by those 2 masks, but the inverse of the depression mask is not happiness, which I think is the thesis of this song, is sort of tackling this understanding with an amount of angst that matches like Nirvana shit, sung with utmost fervor and rage. Do I look happy to you? Oh my god, it's so fucking good. But instead, mania is you turned up to a superhuman degree. Emphasis on superhuman. Like, it's not even you anymore. It's some superhero version of you completely disconnected from reality. The symptoms are gnarly, it's destructive, I don't like it. Kanye can't afford Uber, but he doesn't care because he's gonna be spending recklessly in his destructive little behaviors, running up $1 million being frugal somehow. And he's gonna keep hyping himself up into his superiority complex by reminding himself of accomplishments. And then comes one of the best lines on the album, one of my favorite things I've ever heard. He goes, pass out, wake up with an IV. Reckless, impulsive behavior, followed by heightened levels of self-love and self-importance, and some Kanye exclusive philosophical dealings. Told my stylist I'm too famous for names. Told my jeweler I'm too famous for chains. Told MTV I'm too famous for the fame. Billionaires don't wear their money on their neck, dude. This is shit only Kanye can say. And even though when you are manic, you're under these delusions of grandeur and accomplishment and the ability to accomplish, it still does not fill that empty void in your heart. In fact, it probably makes it even bigger because all you want is more. And in one of his most frightening and heartbreaking sentiments to date, Kanye expresses this feeling with annoyance toward these nosy idiots that just make assumptions about him. Don't ask me nothing you can Google, like you don't know what the fuck is going on, and do I look happy to you? You want to throw me in the institute? Man, all you can do is salute. This song doesn't even have lyrics, but it's a fucking masterpiece. This is some of Kanye's realest shit ever. Now, remember how I've been continuously describing the sound of this album as outer spacey and futuristic? Well, guess what, idiots? Kanye's inviting you into that shit now. I said Imperial March on the last one. On this one, Kanye's saying, welcome to the Sci-Fi. I find the song to be a little melodramatic for my taste in pretty much every component, from this droning synth orchestra to the sentiment in the hook. Make a choice between oxygen or Wi-Fi.
Make a choice already. I'm just going to remove myself from the situation before I lose myself.
Kanye's already talked about going off the grid, but now he's just moping about it on his soap opera version. Baby bye bye, baby bye bye. Okay. Selfish. You hear the drums on this one and you're like, ugh. This is X's second feature on this album, and I don't have nearly as much to say about it as I did his first. It feels a little disjointed, although X does a really good job bringing this sort of lo-fi, toned down energy to this song. This is another one of those one-verse songs from which I derive a mild sense of enjoyment and pleasure, but with which I don't really know what to do. I can't pull out much from Kanye's lyrics here. There's one part where he goes like, Lewinsky, treat me like the president. But this song is just kind of a nothing song, and I don't really care to talk about it. After Selfish is Lord Lift Me Up, which kicks off Act 5 and is a beautiful, beautiful gospel track. Kanye isn't even on this song. It's these bell-dinging keys, and like, what the fuck is that? Is that an organ? And then there's this hella dramatic, like, orchestral just... Man, I haven't touched a violin in like 10 years. How's my bow hold? Am I good at this still? There's a soft voice that guides us through these really emotional passages, begging God for some guidance and some help and mercy, and in return offering complete spiritual submission. Maybe my personal spiritual superstitions lend me to have a bias here. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Kanye's gospel shit. I think this shit's cool. I think this is one of his best gospel songs. I'm not gonna talk about Eazy, Keep It Burning, or what the fuck is the other one? I'm not going to talk about Eazy, City of Gods, or Keep It Burning because these aren't Kanye songs. It's debatable whether or not they even belong on an album that doesn't exist, and I don't care much for them. His verse on Eazy is cool. How I bring nothing to the table when I'm the table. Which brings us to our final song. First time in a long time. In the best way possible, again, earlier I said I like Kanye's gospel shit, but in the best way possible, this sounds like something off of Jesus is King. This is some anthemic, triumphant, loud, and blown-out production, on top of which Kanye's voice kind of sounds shitty with all those shitty little artifacts from Jesus is King that I love so much. And dude, I don't know, it just sounds like Kanye is smiling from ear to ear, jumping around, parading.
Jesus freed me, Jesus freed me,
Now I'm free. Like a homeless person. But here the vibe is completely different. The man has appropriately reflected on his demons and now wishes to move on from them. I fucking love the line, lightsaber like a jetty. Kanye concludes his verse with the facts that we all know. This year, I lost my best man and I lost my spouse. Only billionaire you know who's sleeping on the couch. But again, with this infectious energy, celebrating what would otherwise be depressing due to his unwavering faith in God. This is the first time in a long time, what? That he's taken an L? That he's been this down? Why is he so positive about it? Isn't that inspiring? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? Let it rain, rain, rain. Kanye's not like a great singer, but I think my favorite thing about any song is when a singer just kind of loses it and allows themselves to break and just belt something out. The Let It Rain, Rain, Rain is such an endearing strain on his part. So is the original demo version of Jail.
Guess who's going to jail tonight?
And then who else does Kanye choose to close out the fucking album? None other than the worst verse on his last album, motherfucking Soulja Boy. And Soulja Boy keeps the energy. This verse isn't really about anything beyond going from rags to riches. In fact, that is the topic of every single line on this verse. But he pulls through with a couple of them. You know, I really like the line, we used to walk into the mall and shop, and now we walk in and buy the whole building. It's almost Soulja's own redemption arc, going from having such a shitty verse that it couldn't even be included on the album to being the victory lap final verse on the album. By the way, trivia time, how many albums does Soulja Boy have? Whatever your answer is, it's more than that, including 9 entries into the King Soulja series and 5 entries in the Swag series. Verdict time, verdict time. These are really solid songs, at least those of the ones I liked, which was most of them. I ultimately prefer the grand operatics of something like Donda 1, but I do, in its sort of energy and intention, sincerely compare Donda 2 to something like Yeezus or even Ye. And among those three, this is the one I've listened to the most. This is the one I've connected to the most. I know fans of Ye are gonna call me an idiot for that, because you guys all think that's like his best album. Hear me out. Ye can't be denied. I Thought About Killing You, Ghost Town, Violent Crimes. That's it for me. Even Ye's worst album is great. Oops. Yeezus is unrelenting and energetic, but is also, as I've always known, and I always come back to, kind of dumb. Donda 2 is also dumb, but at least it's varied and aspires towards something greater than itself. Out of these 3, Donda 2 ranks number 2, and that's unfinished, man. Finished, this album could be something real special. For now, you know, if I'm feeling like a downer, yeah, okay, it's like a 5 out of 10, maybe even a 6, which I know is an absurdly high rating to give to an unfinished late career Kanye album, but I swear to God. All right, and now for the worst part of this video, the part that's gonna get me murdered, my Kanye ranking. Number 1, Late Registration. Number 2, Life of Pablo. This one had to grow on me. This one took 8 years to grow on me. 3, Dark Fantasy. 4, College Dropout. 5, Donda. I know, I'm sorry. Donda's fucking great, man. Donda is amazing. 6, Graduation. 7, Yeezus. 8, Donda 2. 9, 9, Jesus is King. 10, 808s and Heartbreak. And then 11, oh God, I'm gonna be fucking murdered for this. And again, listen, I'm putting Donda 2 that high in its unfinished state. There's definitely, I'm gonna admit, some Cobain theory going on here. If you don't know what the Cobain theory is, which you probably don't, it's a theory posed by the best YouTuber around who isn't even a YouTuber, Mr. Soul Brother number 3. In this short film / pop culture theory, Soul Brother posits through the voice of Kurt Cobain, it's not about what he did, it's all about the thrill of never knowing what he could have done. I'm one of the few people that liked Jesus is King when it came out, but then I really started to appreciate it when I really gave Yandhi a deep dive and I started to realize what this album could have been. I conflate these two albums here because they're from the same era, and I think they contain pieces of each other that create a bigger whole. But what if Donda 2 was completed and it sucked? These were all just sort of mildly catchy but kind of shitty songs with a couple of highlights. Then yeah, it's a solid 5, could go down to a 4, could very easily become his worst album. But as a work in progress, there is life constantly being breathed into it every time I hear it. I get to autofill lyrics and feelings into an album that already on its own feels cohesive, and that's exciting to me. That alone doesn't objectively make the album better, and I'm not just talking about instrumentals, I'm talking about spectacle. The Cobain Theory has this really great joke in it where Kurt Cobain has blown all his money betting on the outcomes of movies. I don't know. Watch more Soul Brother vids.
White people like me, I'm Christian. Oh, white people, they like me too. White people, they like me.